I'd like to call the meeting of the Hayden City Council to order. It is Tuesday, June 8th, 2021. It is 5 p.m. and we are located in the Hayden City Council chambers. Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
And Councilmember DeLay?
Yes.
Chief, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Whoever just coughed, can they hear me yet, Abby?
Yes.
Could you please mute? Thank you. For the changes to the agenda, I need a motion to approve the amended agenda, removing the amended minutes and adding C and D to new business. Do we have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLay?
Yes.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 1, consent calendar, approval of Hayden Arts Commission 5x5 event permit application. How about that? Where's Susie? It's her birthday. 1B, approval of contract to the lowest bidder for the 2021 chip seal project. 1C, approval of JUB Engineers, Inc. additional services contract for Lacey Sewer Line construction. D, approval of placement of the 100th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier Monument in PFC Robert J. Gordon Memorial Plaza. And a note with that, can I add a note? Yeah. Good. I'd like to thank Keith and Sandy Coltrap. That's the for putting that together. I don't know that they're on the phone, but they have offered to pay for the monument itself. And we are very grateful for their involvement. E, ratification of May 2021 payroll, and F, approval of bills for payment. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just one question, Mayor, if I may. On the chip seal bid, I know we have a dollar amount, but how many miles or how much does that actually, will they be doing work on the city? Is it a 10% of the roads or just, I just want to get in, because there's nothing in here and I'm just curious as to what $290,000 gets us.
I will get you, I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't know where we're at as far as percentage of the roads or.
How many miles do you know?
We have about 160 lane miles, so about probably a little right around 80 road miles,
Okay.
roughly. But
We're not having the whole city chip sealed.
no,
Yeah, just a rough
That's what he
idea.
just said, 80.
it's probably in the 10% or 8%.
Okay. I just want to get an idea of what that cost is associated with, so thank you.
Total miles of the chip seal project though was in there, correct? Ellen, total miles was in? Total,
Miles would be in the contract, wouldn't it?
The length of the roads that are being done are in there.
I understand
The
that's-
length of each one of those roads is listed. The square yardage of
Yes.
each of those segments of road is listed.
which is how they're measured. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember DeLay?
Yes.
Thank you. We have not had any written requests for visitor or public comment. We will move, have we?
I did have one that told me on the phone, over the phone, that he would like to speak.
Do we have,
Lonnie Harrington?
Yeah,
is he here?
he's there in the back.
I'm Lonnie Harrington.
How are you, sir?
Can I go over here?
You will as soon as we get something that you fill out.
Sean, can you help him?
Thank you for coming. in case he needs to leave, we're all right. Thanks for doing that. You can just fill that, you can come speak, and we'll get the rest if you want.
All right, I'm quickly running.
I mentioned he was on our public safety committee.
Citizen Task Force for Public Safety.
Yeah, police. Yeah.
Sean, can you bring that up, please? Thank you. Lonnie, the podium is yours.
It is, all right.
Yes, and you
All right.
have a time limit, but you're okay.
All right, how much time do I have? 3 minutes?
3 minutes. Well, 5 minutes for you. No, all non-agenda items is a 5-minute maximum.
I'm a retired teacher. I can do more than 10. All right, here we go.
Thank you.
My name is Lonnie Harrington. I live in the Sunview Meadows development. It is over and my address is 8999 North Fifth Sioux Drive. There's about 30 houses in this development. Now, it's at this famous corner of Ramsey and Honeysuckle. You are probably all familiar with the problems over there. And our problem is that we have about 1.5 acres of grass and sidewalk around the perimeter of the property. You give us the rights to keep it green and keep the snow plowed off, and you get to own it, which is fine. We understand how the game is played. However, the game is not being played fair now. It started this last fall with heavy trucks going through the swale or the part up by the road and putting in cable, infamous cable companies. They tore it up last fall. I complained. TDS went in there and they took basically a roller and just rolled the dirt back into place. And they said, what are we going to do about it? We're not going to do anything in November. So in January, February, they came back along with others and they rutted it up again.
TDS again, we need to make sure, it was at TDS?
TDS was there, I say there's Pole Tech. And, I mean, we lose.
I just want to make sure, because there's 3 companies doing
Yeah,
cable
what's the
construction
other
right
one?
now.
The Phi-Sci or something?
The one that's on Prairie that took over the old GTE building,
Yeah, okay.
and then Spectrum.
All right, and Spectrum. Anyway, they all have contributed to the problem. I have lodged a complaint with them, and TDS was real good in responding to it. And after the spring and the ground finally firmed up a little bit so we didn't have the ruts like this, they fixed it. About a week later, one of them, they all stand in a circle and go, says it's them, went through it again, and they rutted it again. And now one of them, this time it was Perfection Traffic Control was there. He said there was an accident, another accident at that particular corner. Again, about every 6 weeks we have that privilege. And so we're back to square one. Now we've got a nice tire rut, and they all claim it's not the tire on our truck because it doesn't match the tread. We don't know what to do.
Is it on, so if I'm on Sunview, it's on your side of Sunview then? Is it on Sunview or is it on Honeysuckle?
It's on Honeysuckle and Ramsey, both ways.
That's what I was wondering, okay.
We're on the northwest corner
Yep.
from that.
Okay.
So this, the cable companies all are trying to do what's right, but nobody is really stepping up to the problem right now. I don't like coming and lodging a complaint without giving you some solutions. You're not going to like them, but you might as well hear them from me so you know where we're at. All right, first of all, we can let it go. We won't mow that part of it. We'll turn the sprinklers off so it doesn't reach out to the street, and we'll have a nice strip of dead grass around the corner. Looks great. Solution one. I'm sure you would like that. It looks good for the city. Another way of doing this is to just ignore it at all. Just, just mow it. We don't care if it goes up and down. The people who we pay to mow it will not do it because it kind of tears up their equipment, but it's fair. And then there's also the thing that the city could do. City could go in and could put some barriers, some concrete barriers down around the corner to keep them off the grass and down into the swale. Well, you're not going to do that, I'm sure, but that's an option. Another way of doing it is just to take care of this problem with this infamous roundabout that's been funded for that corner for what, 2 years, 3 years? I moved here 5 years after living in Spokane and leaving the area for 25 years. I came back and golly, it's been funded. It's there. What's wrong with it? Well, I know what's wrong with it. It's a political decision that you have to make the eminent domain go through on Ramsey and on Honeysuckle and put the damn thing into place. Until we do that, and you curb it and put the pavement around it, this is going to continue. So my choice to you is it an economic decision? No longer is it economics. It's been funded. What is it? It's a political decision, and I'm looking at the politicians.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And so you need,
Feedback for you, it's a financial, we had agreements made and two neighbors decided that those agreements weren't valid.
eminent domain.
I know, but isn't that we're going to talk about government intervention.
Yeah, that's.
So that's a hard one, but thank you.
Okay.
Brett,
for
could
listening,
you
Reed.
please get TDS, because TDS is trying, can you contact TDS or have your team? And just let them know, because this is not going on just on Ramsey and Honeysuckle. I'm getting calls everywhere. And I don't know that it's really just TDS. It's the other company. Is it MyFly, Lonnie, or something? Zipfly. Ziply. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm not trying to disparage any of them other than and it's their third parties, Lonnie, too. But anyway, Brett, if you could do that.
Okay.
That'd be
Yeah, I got
great.
it down.
Thank you.
I have a question. Do we require bonding from any of these cable companies to do what they're doing on our property? And if so, can we use that as leverage to get this done?
Good question. With TDS,
Yeah, we-
franchise.
For any of the right-of-way encroachment agreements, or for 99% of the right-of-way encroachment agreements, we do require bonding. We have probably 4 communication companies putting in complete infrastructure, and I've got one person to oversee it. So we are doing our best to keep track of it.
So we could use the bonding as leverage.
We
to get
can,
that.
if we can determine where and who, we certainly can. And we do have punch list items, and as was indicated, we do make them get back in there and do it. It doesn't necessarily always happen overnight. But thank you.
Thank you.
Coeur d'Alene has the same, but Councilmember Roeder's question, it's the private property ones that concern me more than anything. We've got issues on private property. They'll come to your house between you and your neighbor. And
Right.
that, anyway, thank you. 3A, consider resolution for fire department impact fee. Who wants to speak, or who's got this one?
I can start, and Chief, if you want to say anything about it, you can. So recently, state law changed that allows fire departments to collect impact fees. At a city level, we've talked about trying to do what we can to have growth pay for itself. And so in your packet is a resolution that basically would have the city pass an ordinance that we would collect an impact fee that would put together a committee, and we would work with the fire department hand in hand to collect this fee. We'd collect it at the same time when they come in to get their building permit, along with the other impact fees that we collect. And so from our perspective, it makes sense. They now legally can do it, that we ought to support them in this. Caitlin, our city attorney, has reviewed the resolution. And so this would get us started to move in that direction. So I don't know if the chief has anything else.
Mayor and council, I would just add to what Brett had just mentioned. We've had for some,
You gotta stand and go up there and,
I'm so sorry.
no, you're not. You're really pretty good, so.
Are we good? Mayor and council, I would just add to what Brett was saying, that for some time, fire departments and fire districts have had impact fee abilities to collect, but we do rely solely on the city because we don't have ordinance authority, which is why I'm here before you, and I was here before the city of Rathdrum, or given the opportunity for Rathdrum. The new law has also included our ability to include rolling stock, which was a matter of dispute from any legal, for any representing agency. So that has been solidified. And so before you tonight is your consideration and hopeful approval of the resolution. My fire district has, and my command staff has done an exemplary job of putting together a team, a DFAC committee team for the impact fees for our fire district that include and are in compliance with the state law. We have 3 members who are involved in growth development as it complies. Also have 2 citizens who are not involved in that. And at the end of the day, I believe that we've done the best we can do for the citizens and for the cities that we serve to find a resourceful way to help fund our fire district that do not put the burden on the existing taxpayers' backs.
Which is our goal, and has been for a long time. This new law, is that the correct word?
Yeah, it amends the Impact Fee Act. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other specific comments associated with this? How will it impact for the public? What will be the amount? What, do we have any of that yet?
So the resolution is simply asking the city to agree to develop a joint impact fee development committee between the city, the fire district, and Kootenai Emergency Services, those 3 entities. Then each entity will agree on the members, 5 members for the joint development impact fee committee to help develop impact fees for this specific need for the fire.
Just needed clarification.
So there's not a number, but
They're working
their
on it.
consultant
Yep.
is here too as well. So it's to get this.
Not yet, we're okay, but
Yeah, so,
Thank you.
and the number will be, they'll have to have a capital improvement plan that will have to set impact fees, and then the city can collect those at the time of building permit, just like it does the city impact fees, and then it would go along to the fire district.
so restrictions, because the city has restrictions on how to utilize impact fees. Those restrictions, as I understand it, do not exist with respect to fire, meaning it's just a direct cost associated with that organization. Is that correct?
They still have limitations in the Impact Fee Act on
Do they?
capital improvements,
Okay.
yes.
Exactly the same.
It's the same.
It's exactly the same? Okay, great.
So it can't be used to fund employees, as an example.
That's
But it
what I
can
was-
be-
okay.
But it can be used for fire stations.
Okay. You got a comment?
Is there anything, I'm ignorant of this impact fee thing that you're talking about. I mean, not completely, but this particular case. Is there anything that's allowed in this committee that would cover law enforcement in the same way?
You could also have, not for this specific committee, but the city could have one with law enforcement to collect
Really?
along, yes.
Just not people.
Just not people.
Well,
We could collect for capital improvement projects for law enforcement, not personnel, but long-term capital like a police station, yes.
Or,
so we could build a building, but we can't put anybody in it.
Correct.
Oh.
but we could do, are vehicles also included?
If they last 10 years.
That's what, see?
Yep.
So we could do vehicles, but they just, right now our vehicles, the law enforcement's don't last 10 years.
Well, look how they drive them.
Based upon
They gotta
my
keep up.
time riding with them, I'm surprised they last 5 years.
Yeah.
So,
You get to ride in the front seat now, don't you?
I did, it was a whole new experience. So, do we have a motion to approve the resolution, and do I need to read the resolution in its entirety?
No.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 2021-, a joint development impact fee advisory committee resolution, resolution of the City of Hayden, a municipal corporation, Kootenai County, Idaho, adopting findings and providing for the joint development impact fee advisory committee and establishing an effective date resolution.
I'll make that motion that we approve the Joint Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee resolution.
Excellent. Do we have a second?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLange?
Yes.
Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
And Councilmember Roder?
Yes.
Thank you. Jackie's Family Trust, Jackie Mabry annexation request. Thank you. Go get them. And Chief, do you have, Brett can give you my cell phone.
I'll be talking to him.
That's what just so that we can communicate as necessary.
Yes, sir.
So, thank you.
It's this one, right? It's if I get it right. Yeah. Hello. So today we're looking at the Mabry Family Trust. It's an annexation request. We've seen this proposal previously, and we're bringing it back again to take another look at it to see if you'd be willing to, now that we've finished all the plans and got all that completed, we're moving forward with the request to annex this 5 acres adjacent to North Atlas Road. And as you can see from this map, it is surrounded on 3 sides by cities. It is infill in the sense that it is surrounded by cities. It is a pocket of county. So the proposal is to annex 1 lot that's approximately 5 acres. The comp plan that's shown here shows it as being in a sea of yellow, single-family residential, and the request is to annex it as residential R1. So as you're kind of standing in the middle of Atlas and you're looking west at the middle of the lot, that's what you see. The south half of that looking west again. On the north portion of the lot looking west. And then kind of make a 180 degrees turn around and you see the Atlas Elementary School playground immediately to the east. So the area that we're looking at is within Kootenai County, and it's within an area that the city calls its exclusive tier. So it's an area that's only going to be annexed by the city of Hayden. Let's ignore that. And in Kootenai County's comprehensive plan, it identifies this area as border. Talks about it as being the purpose of this area is designated to allow very limited development that ensures that when the future city expansions, it can be accomplished in an effective, orderly, and logical fashion. So it's anticipated that it's going to be in the city, in the county's comp plan. Once the area is annexed, it's consistent with those long-range plans. The areas are expected to be served by urban services to facilitate further development. The 2040 comprehensive plan, and in your memo identified this as well. Action item number 23 says to encourage properties surrounded by city limits or areas to be annexed to incorporate, saving the city and the property owner from higher service costs to that property. So again, as you can see, this is the Kootenai County website, and it's showing the city limits as they exist on the website. So everything that's in yellow is the city of Coeur d'Alene. Everything that's in pink is the city of Hayden, and as you can see from this map, this area is entirely surrounded by cities. Everybody that ever uses West Robeson Avenue, West Bean Avenue, or West Cranston Avenue has to dump out onto Atlas Road that is inside the city of Hayden city limits. And so the property as being proposed is adjacent on its east side to that our western boundary of the city of Hayden. And Goal 5 says areas proposed for annexation are to be considered only if they are contiguous to the city limits and adequate infrastructure can be provided to service the development. So when Strawberry Fields went in, they put sewer line in Atlas Road. And when Broadmoor went in, they put sewer line in Atlas Road in anticipation of development that would develop to the west to connect to that sewer infrastructure that is in Atlas Road today. And previously, when they came forward, we had talked about the fact that we would need correspondence from the airport because they are within the airport critical zone. And as part of their application previously, that was provided. It would be updated as part of any new application for annexation. And then, as we've talked about with that previous goal, that we wanted to make sure that adequate infrastructure was in place for the annexation. Will serve letters would be required from Hayden Lake Irrigation and the city of Hayden to show that sewer would be available and that water would be available for that infrastructure. And then the trip gen letter is standard because they are coming out onto a city road. So with that, the city council may approve with conditions, or deny the request to begin the annexation process to be incorporated into the city of Hayden. As this is a second request, should the council choose to deny the request, staff is requesting that council indicate the items which would enable the application to gain approval.
What were P&Z's, just because we're working on a new P&Z's recommendations, Donna?
Previously?
Yeah,
Under the previous request, they had suggested that the annexation be approved, but that the density be reduced.
Okay, thank you. Which is in our packet. I just want to make sure
Yes.
it's in these little machines.
What was the recommendation to reduce the density to what?
I think it was residential suburban.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, so the annexation came in requesting R1 because it's zoned at annexation, and planning and zoning approved it, the annexation, but changed the zoning to residential suburban, which effectively is a denial really, because of the difference in the zoning, what was requested versus the zoning, and the residential suburban just isn't supported by, and then this came under, when it was applied for under our old comprehensive plan, under 2008. And so it follows that comprehensive plan, but we used both to compare. It wasn't ever residential suburban in the 2008, and it's not residential suburban in the 2040 plan. So that's why it's also an effective denial, is because the zoning isn't supported by what we have in our plans. Maybe a recap, historical recap there, but.
But that was important, I think, in the process, so,
So the applicant's requesting to kind of start over with the process.
which is why,
Yep.
and we're great. Any other comments or questions for Donna? Having said that, do we have a motion to approve or deny the request to begin the annexation process to be incorporated into the city of Hayden?
I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second it. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember DeLange?
Yes.
Councilmember Roeder?
No.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember Panbaker?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you, Donna.
I'd like to explain my no vote.
No, don't need to. We could talk about that later. No discussion. 3C, action item, Kootenai County Sheriff's Office request to add additional deputy to Hayden.
So that's, you have a memo there before you. I received that actually today. Bob Norris came in and based on the information he provided previously on the number of officers they have needed to provide and what they're anticipating for the summer, they're already often having to bring officers from other areas because we'll get a call and then they get another call and they're not able to cover the city sufficiently with a rapid response. They like to be in the 4-minute range and they're closer to 8 to 10 on many of their calls. And so they're requesting in this budget year to increase our contractual amount by $29,000 to cover an additional person. He mentions overtime. He wanted to have that person there from 2 or 3 until the evening, 10 or 11, depending on what works best for them. As far as our budget this year, we had several positions that we didn't fill immediately, and so we do have the money in the budget that we could use to do this. So that's basically the action requested tonight, if you would approve to move forward to just utilize funds that we have in the budget to cover this additional person. Second, it will be for next year's budget, and I'll save that part really for when we get into the budget discussion.
You recommend this?
Yeah, I think so. When you hear, being as far as city administrator and feeling a responsibility to have public safety in the city, during the busiest times of the day, we hear often that there's longer times than we would like for them to respond. So I think it would be a positive public safety thing. And again, it would cover until Labor Day, and then eventually we'll need to talk about how we proceed further. As you recall, he mentioned in our last meeting that currently they're providing $1.2 million worth of services currently, and we're paying just over $300,000. And so that we'll just need to continue to work through that. That was his request long-term, is just to start talking about that. But so this is for the remainder of this budget year, the request that we're asking for tonight.
Any questions for Brett?
Yeah, I have a question. Based on how many hours we get, deputy hours we get from the county, if we have that number, what does that come out to per hour cost, or do we know that?
I'd have to run, we get a monthly report from them on the hours that they provide. They actually give us categories for deputy, detective, animal control, and we've got those hours. And the amount we pay for all of those is less than what we're getting. But I'd have to run those numbers. I could do that for you.
Because this is running at $66 an hour for what we're paying. I'm just want to compare that to what we have been paying. I'm just curious.
What's 40 plus overtime?
Yeah, it's overtime amount. Right now, without running the numbers, just for the officers, the 4 officers, we're paying about $285. And that includes equipment and some other things. So I don't have an hourly rate that I give you, but I could get it for you.
Any other questions for Brett?
I'd just like to say something if I could. Until we come up with a funding mechanism, which seems to be pretty elusive for us anymore, and we need to support the sheriff's department and law enforcement any way we can. We're behind the 8 ball with them now. We're looking at means to catch up in the future, but I think this little bit to start here sure would help. And if we have the money to do it, I think we ought to do it.
Do we have a motion to approve allocating an additional $29,000 to the sheriff's department for 40 hours a week of deputy overtime service for 11 weeks?
So moved.
I'll second
We
it.
have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Councilmember Roder?
Yes.
And Councilmember DeLange?
Yes.
Thank you. You're okay with that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I'll convey that to Sheriff Norris.
Cool. Action item, town hall meeting discussion. This will be a discussion, and we want input from all those that can. Council President Satterfield, would you like to begin these discussions?
Sure. What I'd like to say here, and I'll try to keep it brief, but I doubt that's going to happen, but this is in regards to the proposed meeting for, I believe it's Thursday night, but it also addresses a My Turn article in the newspaper today. So to start out, I just want to do a little history here. You know, we've spent the last couple years holding numerous public meetings. It was called Imagine Hayden. Most of it was pre-COVID, not all of it, but most of it was. So we got input from, would hundreds of citizens be accurate in saying? And the other thing, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop this comp plan because of consultants, staff time, everything. And to change it now, in my mind, is a betrayal to those people who took their time and the effort to come to Imagine Hayden and give us their input, because that's what the plan is based on, is staff, P&Z, council, and the input from our citizens. And if we choose to change that comp plan, it's not just the comp plan that is affected, because we did the transportation plan, the parks plan, and the sewer plan, because staff came to us, we looked at it as, wow, you guys are taking on a lot, and it was, but it all melded together. You know, if we're going to develop one plan, let's make them all work in conjunction with each other. Great idea, lots of work. So, and the public told us. I mean, yeah, there was public that came and said, hey, I don't like this. And we talked to them, explained it, we changed some things and stuff. But now all of a sudden we seem to have people that don't agree with this new comp plan. Keep in mind, it's only been in effect since November of 2020. And they say that, oh, we don't want it to be close the gate. Well, and the article today also says, don't want to close the gate. Well, the emails I've gotten says they don't want any mixed use, don't want any apartments, don't want any rentals, only homeowners. Well, aren't we, if we only do R1 homeowners, aren't we creating an elite town where people who want to rent, you know, nothing's affordable today. I mean, you can talk about what's affordable, nothing is. But apartments, duplexes, they have a place. And part of this comp plan was to provide people with that. I don't want to see us with a Sun Valley type atmosphere where all the worker bees have to be bussed in because there's no place for them to live. And you could say, oh, well, they're, you know, they can't afford to rent anyway. Well, yes, they can, because all of these apartments and rentals are full. And I compare it to, if you rent something, you got to come up with $2,000 or $3,000, not $100,000 for a down payment. These people need to have a place to live as well. And I think our comp plan addressed that very well. The state also isn't a big help to us, you know, and I can go on and on about that, but, you know, one of the things that bothered me about this article in the paper today is that the way it was written, it indicated that the higher traffic and things like that are attributed to density in Hayden. No, it's not. Go sit down at Lancaster and Government Way and see where these cars come from. Most of these cars are not Hayden residents. They're from all around us. So to try to put the blame on high density in the city of Hayden simply isn't true. It just simply isn't true. This is a good comp plan. I've had many compliments on it. One of the things that disturbed me was 2 or 3 meetings ago, and we all know the opinion today was Councilmember Roeder. One of the things that he's now against density. So which way is the wind blowing today? Because he voted in favor of this comp plan. He praised staff for the hard work they did to this comp plan. And now he says he's not in favor of it. And I think it was 3 meetings ago, he said he didn't understand it. Well, I'm sorry, but as a council member, after spending 2 years on a plan, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a comprehensive plan, and I approve it, but I don't understand it, not acceptable to me. I think it's, in my mind, it is theatrical politics at its very best. One of the other things that was brought up was he was the only council member who voted against a lift station that Viking Construction was doing in conjunction with one of their developments. We participated as a city. We spent city money on that. You bet, because we're planning ahead. We can't fail. Some of these houses are going to get built. The densities are in question, but these houses are going to get built. We need to be able to keep up with the sewer and stuff. Councilman Roeder made the comment, he was the only council member to vote against it. No, he didn't. There was 3 separate votes on it. He voted twice in favor of it. He voted once against it, and to say all of us voted for it, I wasn't even at one of the meetings, so no one knows what my vote would have been. You know, people look at me and they go, well, you're pro-developer. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. And if you don't believe me, ask the developers. You know, I'm not necessarily their most popular fellow that sits up here all the time. I'm for responsible growth, smart growth, planning. We listen. This council, one of the reasons I have continued to run for office is I am so proud of this council and staff, P&Z, because we have a history of listening to our people. We listened to the people that came to Imagine Hayden. We listened to what they wanted and what they didn't want. But they wanted something because they understood not everybody can afford a house. So that means you have to have mixed density, you have to have apartment complexes, you have to have things like that. So again, the best example I can use of high traffic is Government Way every day. It stinks, but it's not Hayden's density that is causing it. Sure, it contributes to it, but it's not causing it. So let's not try to make fire protection, police protection, and all this, all of Hayden's fault because it's simply, some folks think we have too high a density. These people are coming from other places. Now, one of the things that was addressed in this was crime, that if you have higher densities, you're going to have more crime. Well, you know, we have apartment complexes, we have mixed use, we have rentals in our area, and Councilmember Roeder says our crime has actually gone down, and he was one of the lead proponents in killing a bond issue when we wanted to get more police. So which is it today? It creates more crime or crime's going down? I'm starting to get a little confused with it. The folks that want to see the densities reduced, I urge you folks to use your talents, to use your times, because you're a good group of people. You're smart. You're not a bunch of dummies that just showed up one day. Go to, and I know you are, you're going to our neighboring cities and stuff, but they're actually contributing more to some of our problems than we are. So let's try not to just throw it on Hayden's shoulders. You know, I think this comp plan, we just passed it in November. It's a good comp plan. And all plans are subject to change. But let's give it a chance and let's see how it develops, because the emails and the things that I have read from folks, they're not understanding it. They're just not understanding it. And I don't know how to get it across to them, but, you know, some people have sent in questions and stuff to us. So the city of Hayden is the best city in North Idaho, in all Idaho, as far as I'm concerned. Let's support each other, and I appreciate 99% of the folks that want to see the densities lowered. I appreciate their civility. That's very important because often things get out of hand. One of the things that disturbed me also in this article today was that, and I quote, "The comprehensive plan of which the main goal is accommodating the population explosion." No, it's not. That's not what we developed. We developed it so we had diversity. We're going to have $1 million homes. We're going to have a lot lower priced homes. We've already got apartments. We're probably going to have more. We got rentals. That's what the public told us for 2 years, that's what they wanted to see here. You know, there's so many half-truths in this article. I don't have time, and I don't want to take up the time, and innuendos that simply are not true. But one of the things that really probably irked me about the whole thing, not once in that whole article, were property rights addressed. You know, I knew a lot of farmers that was going to be their retirement, was selling their property or building a duplex or two. Property rights is a big deal in Idaho, but not once was property rights ever mentioned. So I'll shut up. I talked enough.
Thank you. This is open for any member of the council. Councilmember DeLange.
I would like to speak, but I would like to hold my comments for now and see if any of the other council members wish to speak at this time.
Okay. Councilmember Roeder. Councilmember Patrick.
I wouldn't turn my back to you because I don't trust you. But I will say this. I've been involved in this place here on and off for the last 35 years. 35 years ago, we came out of a recession and it was bad. You couldn't sell a house around here to save your life. We had 2,000 to 3,000 people here at the time, and it was tough, and the people were having a tough time. Most of the people that have worked around here for any great length of time never made a lot of money. You know, I was myself never driven by a lot of money. I was driven by a lack of it a few times. But, you know, the reality was that one day, not one day, many days, myself and the council that were present at the time, what do we want the future of this town to be? Because it was after the recession was getting over. It was around 1990, somewhere in there. What do we want the future to be? Do we want to get involved in the annexations and the growth that other people were already starting? We had Woodland Meadows that was coming on over here, and we didn't have the financial ability really to help put even the infrastructure in because we didn't have any money. We had nothing. This town was actually started in 1955. So back in those days, we only had half a dozen people working here. How do we do this? We weren't used to it. We didn't know. What we decided we wanted to do is we wanted to keep this a family-friendly town. Like Coeur d'Alene was when I was a kid, when you could get on your bike and you could ride to the beach and you spend all day down there, and the only thing your mother worried about is if you're going to be home in time for dinner. That's what we wanted. And that's what we designed our infrastructure around here, planning for that. That's why we expanded the size of Honeysuckle Beach as big as we could at the time, and it was very difficult because it was expensive, but we did it. The other one was we started annexing around the airport, partially to protect the airport, but also to put a buffer in so a home building couldn't kill the airport. And it has happened in other places. People have seen it all over the country. And the other one was that maybe someday our children and grandchildren would need jobs, and we would have something out there where they could have jobs. And so we headed that direction. That's what we did. We've never been crazy about annexations or any of that kind of stuff, but there are some that have to come about. Property rights are important to people, and they have to be able to use them. The growth came. And I'll tell you the truth about it. The growth, the traffic problems around here aren't from the original natives that have lived here. My family's been here over 100 years. It's from mostly people that have moved in. Now, 30 years ago, how the hell would we know what the growth was going to be 30 years ago? And if we had a way of doing it, how would 2,000 or 3,000 people pay for the highways and everything so that 30 years down the road, everybody'd have what they want? There was no mechanism for that, and we were learning. But we were trying to make it a good place to live. And you know what? We did. Because if you talk to people today that have moved in from other areas, why did you come here? The quality of life is one of the first ones that come up. So we weren't just stupid, maybe a little naive about some things, but we had a good plan and we tried to make it work, and it did work. Look where we are today. I think it's still a great place to live. But we had no idea that we were going to have $1 million homes all over the place, or $500,000 homes. When my wife and I bought our house in 1970, we paid $18,000 for it with $500 down. Okay, that was affordable housing at that time. You can't even buy a brick for that anymore, hardly. So, and now the kids today are living 2 or 3 kids to an apartment trying to pay the rent because they can't afford a house of their own. The last meeting we had, we were talking about density. Now, none of us like the traffic. None of us like it the way it is, but it isn't our plan. It isn't our decision whether people can move here. All we can try to do is live with it the best we can. We're talking about building these apartment structures around here. I don't particularly like them myself. I would just assume that kids would be able to grow up and have their little picket fence, but that's not what they want either anymore, necessarily what we wanted. But affordable housing. That today, unfortunately, is affordable housing, and that's part of our plan, is to give that to them so they have a place to live if they have jobs to keep them here, because we want our kids to live here. He said, I want houses. They could live in Coeur d'Alene. And that's on tape, by the way, so I'm not making that up, which is a bunch of crap that's contrary to everything we've ever stood for or ever tried to do around here. Is it perfect? Hell no, it isn't. We had no idea it was going to grow like this. And it's heartbreaking, to be honest about it, because my family's been here over 100 years. It was a great place to live then. It's still a great place by most standards today. So do I understand why people left where they did to come here? You're right, I understand it, because they have progress over where they lived before. And they had so much progress they couldn't stand to live there anymore. So let's not ruin this. And I know you guys are on the same page in many ways. But when people start putting the heavy on us like we didn't take care of business, that's crap. And when stuff appears in the newspaper like it did today, I saw it today, and I do recognize crap without putting my foot in it. And I'll tell you, if you're going to talk about me or us, tell the truth, or try to once in a while. It just irritates the hell out of me because we've worked hard. And you know something else? We're not in it for the money, and we're not pro-growth. We're basically volunteers, and I know you want to be last so you can tear all this stuff apart. And I know how you are, and I don't like that a bit, but that's fine. I don't have to like what you do. So anyway, that's enough for now. But I'll tell you what, there's some really good people work here, and a lot of them make less money than they could other places, and they stay here because they like where they work and they like where they live. I don't see anything wrong with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that our staff and our community development director have done an excellent job developing the new comp plan. It's been, and I approved it. I thought it was excellent. We heard from hundreds of citizens, as was mentioned before by other council members. And when we approved it, we didn't hear anything negative at that time. However, as we started moving forward on it, and citizens were sent a letter and asked to contact the city if they wanted to, in some cases, keep the same zoning, or there was an opportunity for them to change. And that's sort of where this all started. There was confusion on it. I think some citizens, as staff explained it to them, they were okay with everything. But I've heard from a lot of citizens, too, that for whatever reasons, during the process, when we were updating the plan and we had open houses, we had public comment. I mean, we tried to reach as many citizens as possible. So again, they could have very good reasons why they couldn't have attended the open houses, and they've come forward now. And so I think it's important, I mean, even though we've approved the comp plan, there has been enough comments and concerns about it. I would say mainly about the mixed use, the 20-plus units, and I think that maybe that needs to be re-examined. I'm still saying that the comp plan, it was a good plan, but we're just hearing from people that, again, for whatever reasons, they weren't aware of what was in it. And I think that even though it's after the fact, that we need to allow citizens to give us their input. I think that given what the other Council President Satterfield and Council Member Panabaker have said, some people have been have become more understanding of the new plan, but they still, a lot of them still have concerns. And I think it boils down to that 20-plus units. I think that it would be good to listen to the input and maybe reduce that down. What that number is, I'm not sure. Maybe 9 or 10, maybe 12. But I think that we should allow the citizens who have concerns at this time a chance to provide their input and just re-examine. In the past, I've been on council for 20 years, and when we've passed ordinances, sometimes when we pass something, we don't realize what ramifications it may have, until later. And citizens come forward, they speak to us, and, we listen. Sometimes we're able to make changes and make it better. Sometimes it's better the way it is. But in this case, I do think it's important that we just take a step back, take a look at that 20-plus number, and I think it might be, we still would have mixed use, apartments. We need to have more than just residential units, because that would make Hayden be just like Aspen or Sun Valley. And that would really hurt us. I mean, I love living in Hayden, and I think it's important to try and have housing for many different types of people, but not just tone it down as far as the 20 plus. That, in my mind, is a little too dense. And with that, thank you.
Thank you. Just before, Melissa, would you like to comment on the work that your team has been doing with respect to Councilmember DeLange's concerns?
Sure, I can give a little bit. I guess for starters, the absolute maximum was 20, and that's not in the comp plan. That's in the zone code that we did after the comp plan. So it doesn't talk about density in the comp plan itself. So we've gone back kind of to the research that we did as a part of writing the new zone codes for those new zones that were created. And we found that most of the successful multifamily developments that we found, that we said, okay, we want to, if we're going to do it, we want to be like that, we're in that about 15 to 25 dwelling units an acre. So, you know, and we had talked about this in workshops and stuff, but we went back and pulled that stuff out. And so we picked 20 because it was kind of right in the middle. We didn't want to be the high end, and feared that if we got to the low end, then we wouldn't have the high quality that we were seeing elsewhere. So that's where the 20 came from. But we have, you know, we've been considering amending that code to lower it a little bit. Do you want me to go into more detail?
No, that's okay. Councilmember Roeder, do you have comments?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know I'm the bad guy, and I'm hearing that. But, you know, the government and having civil and disagreement is healthy, because there are a lot of different points of view in our city, as what I'm hearing on our council. And, you know.
Excuse me, one thing. If you agree to everything all the way through the process and then change your mind when it's on TV, that's not discourse.
He didn't interrupt. It's okay. Councilmember Roeder, this is your time.
Have you ever changed your mind on anything, Dick?
Yeah, I liked you to start with.
That's the point number one. And I know that, and there's a lot of things I could probably talk about, but I'll just highlight a few things. The comp plan, I know, was a long, arduous process. What stuck in my mind that really I thought was, I liked the idea, was, well, we need a price point, because prices are going crazy. And it sounded really good, but in my gut, something was wrong with that. And I didn't know what it was until I started talking to people and hearing people, and Ed started this Facebook page, and I started reading what people were saying and the issues that he brought up, and I started thinking about it, and so where I came up with is that and the comp plan says that the estimate in 20 years will be 35,000 people, and if that is a guide to try to accommodate this growth, well, you have to project something. So there is a plan to try to accommodate a vast amount of people, way more than we've ever had, and over doubling it. So, you know, the comp plan was trying to accomplish accommodating, and correct me if I'm wrong, or was it only to accommodate 5,000 more people? Or was it to try to accommodate 35,000 total? I took it as, when I looked at the graph, that the estimate in 20 years was going to be in that 35,000 range. And I also looked at the slope, you know, analyzing the slope between different time periods, and the acceleration of that thing was incredible. I'm talking about the growth rate. Again, I welcome civil discourse. I think that this is the healthiest thing that we as a government entity can do. Not everybody thinks the same. And so I appreciate what my fellow council members, their position, but I have a real basic question. It is, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to pay for the capital improvement plan that we have is $50-60 million, and we are crowded now with traffic. So if we go and then project this out in the future without the funding mechanism, and I sat down with a local owner of one of the bigger real estate firms this week, and I asked him the same question. I said, I need to know from people smarter than me, how do we fix this problem? He didn't have an answer. I sat down with Melissa for 2 hours. I asked her that question. And she said, and tell me if I'm wrong, that really was my job to look at how we're going to fund it. Is that true?
I asked you what your idea was for funding it, since you're a councilman. I mean,
Right, but I had asked,
That falls
and we can
completely
disagree
on
on
my
it if you want, but I was looking for ideas how we fund this. And then eventually she did respond and say, well, it's the responsibility of the people to pay for that. And I'm going, wait a minute. We as citizens, are we expected to pay for all this new growth so new people can be packed in here? If that's what my fellow council members want,
No, it isn't.
then who's going to pay for it? That's no good business plan will go out in the future, do something that will put them further in the hole. How are we going to pay for this? We had our sheriff, and I like Bob Norris, and we were all here, then we probably heard, he wants 1.8 million, from us, because I asked for the number. All right, so now how are we going to get that money? Is he providing the adequate service to Hayden now? Maybe not, because he needs 1.8 million. Well, if we can't afford that net, what we're paying now, and we can increase it 29,000, how can we afford 1.8? Again, where do we set our sights on growth? And I want to be clear on this. I'm not about shutting it down. We can't. My concern is where it's taking us, because the traffic's going to get worse, the crime's going to get worse, and who's going to pay for it? We don't have an ability to, can someone on council, and I'll continue on with these other points, can someone answer that question?
Please continue on.
Do you want me to at least comment from a staff level what we're trying to do? I think you're right. When you look out a long ways, some of those numbers, when you hear a $55 million number, some of those numbers are out for long distance. I think from a staff perspective, we're trying to tackle those problems. And so I think it's important, that the public knows that we're not just we don't have blinders on. We've put together and paid for, and in the middle of plans for the 5 top intersections. And how do we pay for that? Well, we're hoping we can use some of the federal money. We're hoping we can use, the 3.1 million that we're getting. We're hoping that we can use some of the state extra funds that they have. We've collected $2.7 million in impact fee money to be used. And so we have enough to do some of those intersections. We're studying Honeysuckle and Hayden. And so I guess from my perspective is we're trying to address, the priority issues and come up with ways to fund. We go for grants, we go for everything we can to try to make it work. And so on the sewer side, we have a plan. It's not as we expand the system, the existing citizens will not pay to expand the system. That comes from cap fees and other things. And so we have a plan that we've worked on with a new code section to pay for sewer. Roads are a struggle in many towns, but from our perspective, we're not giving up on that. We're trying to do the best we can, and we've got millions of dollars to work with on these projects and to try to tackle the Honeysuckle and Ramsey's, the Honeysuckle and Forest Street, and redo those intersections and continue to go after money. So I don't want the public to get the impression that we're not doing anything. part of what we were doing was to plan for this. And so if we have a plan and we have priority, we can start working on those. Do we have enough money to pay for all the projects? No. So I guess that's hopefully maybe the best answer we have right now. I think the alternative, say with police, if we weren't to have any growth at all today, what he's telling us is our current shortfall is $1.2 to $1.8 million. If we don't do anything, we have a responsibility. They're saying, these are the services we're providing, you need to do something. And so we could say no and then not have those services, I guess, but I just, we're on a staff level trying to tackle these the best we can. And so there's not no answer. It's just not, we're trying to move forward sometimes a little bit to get the money to do these projects that we prioritized. And maybe that's the best answer that cities have that we can do. And somehow we've made it through, and there's a number from 1970, we had 14,000 people come to the city from 1970. And we got, I think the city of Hayden got behind in infrastructure, and we've made it through that period of time. And I think we're going to increase impact fees. We're doing that so that we're getting enough there. Our cap fees are as high as the courts will allow us. So anyways, I'm going on too long, but that's.
So if I may continue, because it was my turn, but I appreciate your.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing from the public, and this goes with if we do, or we're not able to veer from the comp plan, then it's not a plan. I mean, it's a directive. You're just doing this. And so what I'm hearing is that people are fed up with the traffic. They're fed up with the amount of people moving here. They're fed up with the prices, housing prices. They're fed up with this concentration of people that are causing their taxes probably to go up, because who's going to pay for all this? And I agree with them. I don't like the growth that we have. And then when we project it to be even greater, I don't like that either. Is there anything wrong to say I don't like growth? Well, that's the way it is. I don't like where we're headed. I've loved living here. I see it changing, and I don't like to see the changes. So the question is, are we going to accelerate that growth so it gets worse sooner, or are we going to try to let things progress at a slower pace? I mean, we're not the only city that's dealing with that. Regarding private property rights, I'm a strong advocate for private property rights. I think when a property is zoned a certain way, they have every right to do whatever the zoning legally allows them to do. I have never said, oh, you can't do something if it's zoned the correct way. Now, if you're going to argue with me and say, well, we've got to annex a property from a farmer because, he has on paper $50 million in property and he doesn't have a 401k, and he needs to be annexed so that he can now subdivide that and make, $10 million off of it. We as a city do have no obligation to annex a property and then put a greater burden on our city for the costs that we have to provide for services there. We don't have to do that. Now, and I think if we're in disagreement that we need to help the farmer because they're the poor farmer, we're going to have a disagreement on that.
Just because, to keep us focused, that has never been an issue in the city of Hayden, and in my mind, makes no sense. We don't ask for annexation. And with respect to annexing out of the area, it's a great example that's never been.
It's been brought up twice by Roger and Dick that it's the farmer, they don't have a 401k, or they don't, and so their land is the only thing.
I've never heard any of that.
I never mentioned annexing.
It's okay, it's my fault.
I'm bringing that in because.
Go ahead, it's my fault, but I've never heard that example in 6 years, so keep going. I just want to make sure that we stay on task.
Nobody else.
Sure. And I guess what really shocked me is that with the comprehensive plan, I thought there was going to be a natural progression of the current zoning the way it is. We would have property owners who would come to us and say, we want to go to mixed use or new one of our zoning. And I thought, well, that'll come onesie, twosie kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, we got 1,800 or 1,600 letters going out saying, and I know legally we're told that that can be done, but that was a mass shift in zoning. That was a shock to me. I mean, that was never told that we were going to have a whole bunch of letters going out. The next thing I see is a letter saying, oh, by the way, these are going out to all these people. And so that soured me on the approach, the methodology that we used, because it made it look like the city was saying, we're making these changes and we're selling it. We're forcing it. And you may disagree with me, but that's how I saw that. Going back to the Viking construction, $650,000. The very last approval for payment on that, I talked to John Cafferty about the contract that, and he's made it clear, we had no obligation to pay him. Viking Construction, excuse me a minute, I'm talking too much. We had no obligation to pay Viking $650,000. And what I heard was, what's the right thing to do? Well, was it the right thing to do that Viking participated in the NIBCA lawsuit, which cost the city $1 million, which all our sewer users are paying for? And it's because of that lawsuit that the latecomer ordinance that we had where he could have gotten that money went away. It was the fault of that lawsuit that caused the problem for them. So why should we give a Viking Construction $650,000? By the way, I did the research on it and looked at the number of building permits and the cap fees that were paid during the time period of the class definition for the class action lawsuit that was filed against us. And Viking would have gotten the largest amount of, he had the largest amount of claims. That doesn't make me happy that we got sued and we had to pay all that money and our sewer payers had to pay for that. So why is it the right thing to do when we don't have to do something contractually? And Cafferty made that clear to me. Made it absolutely clear. So I may have agreed to it early, but when it came down to funding it, and when I found out when we settled our case and in respect to that lawsuit, I changed my mind. I think if there isn't anybody on this board while you've been on the board here, have you ever changed your mind on something? You get a better understanding, you hear from people, you hear from our constituents, and that can happen. So I wanted to define that. This is all boiling down, folks. There's a shift. And I'll talk about the politics that's going to happen. The Cooney County Republican Central Committee, they have now said, we're going after nonpartisan races. They, in the last election in May, they had an 80% success rate. They're patting themselves on the back, and they have two candidates in Coeur d'Alene, and they'll be coming here. And do you think they like taxes? Do you think they like more government? And they don't. I mean, they're part of why our legislature was hesitant in funding education. And you know how important education is. I just bring that up because there are a lot of people that are like-minded that think about the impact of taxes on them and regulations. And people the emails and the calls I've gotten from some pretty high-profile folks, some of you know them and they own large parcels in this city, they agreed with me. So, you know, okay, so it goes to the question. I would hope that the city council would want to listen to the voice of the people, because you would send the wrong message if you don't allow a city hall on Thursday night for whatever reason, because, oh, well, we already heard from those folks. Well, things change. And if you want to send the message, you don't want to listen to them, that's up to you. But I believe that we need to listen to what the voices are saying now, because what the voices that I'm hearing are not happy with the growth, not happy with the traffic, not happy with the prospect of having to pay for the growth. And that's all I have to say. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have a couple questions, maybe a comment. Sandy, what is our mill levy rate currently?
94 cents per thousand.
So our mill levy rate is 80 cents per thousand.
94.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
low, but it's not that low.
Is 94 cents per thousand. And we're a city of almost 16,000 people. We have one of the lowest mill levy rates in the entire state. Could it be? Could that be why so many people are moving over here? We have developers, Councilmember Roders talks about growth not paying for itself, but yet we have developers building here in Hayden, and we're collecting impact fees. We're collecting cap fees. And staff does an excellent job of making the most of what we do have. I mean, going after grants, going after, I mean, all these different ways of funding our projects here in Hayden. And I just want to commend staff. You do a great job, and frankly, I mean, we couldn't do our jobs without you. So I want to commend you and thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to make some comments and we can continue, but I don't want to, and we're going to combine some issues, but the town hall meeting issue is going to be separate and I will address it separately. And then the comp plan issue is separate and I will address it specifically. Two things to begin with respect to the article. I don't know that anyone has done their homework, obviously, to understand that the new comprehensive plan lowers our density by 30% from the previous plan. And to throw things like accommodating population explosion and other things, the comp plan restricts the floodgates. R1, we will have the highest lot size and continue to have the highest lot size for R1. So the new comp plan restricts the floodgates, does not increase it. And I'd like to talk about credibility. I received a letter from someone on D Court, and I'll just leave that. And this is the letter, and it was almost like upside down day. He said, there needs to be more transparency in the zoning process. We currently have unseen and unelected bureaucrats trying to change our zoning codes without our permission in a manner which I call social engineering. Although Melissa Cleveland is the public face of the Zoning Commission, we need to know who is reporting to her. We need to put names and faces on those city employees who are trying to rezone our neighborhoods. You have an agenda. I smile because this is just opposite. You have an agenda called Reimagine Hayden, which is not true, but that's okay. I really don't like that idea. I like Hayden just the way it is. That's why I moved here from Washington State, to get away from unelected bureaucrats, socialist pipe dreams. And they lived on D Court. And I just smiled because the letter that I received is exactly the type of transparency that we're asking for. That, where that individual lives, he or she or they thought that it was R1. It wasn't. It was mixed use, and they received a letter telling them that the zoning for their home was what it was and that they should go to R1. I mean, so I shake my head sometimes at the opposite information that's out there. Those letters that were sent out by Melissa and team were clarifications as to zoning requirements. They had nothing to do with any, what did you say? The city is not soliciting, this is my response to you, the city is not soliciting zone changes. The 1,750 letters were for clarification on existing zoning. The comprehensive plan confuses, it has nothing to do with population and zoning. It doesn't, and I'll get to zoning and density in a minute, because obviously one city council member and others might not understand the difference between population and zoning. But with respect to the town meeting, the focus of this town meeting in my mind was to listen to questions from Hayden citizens and to respond to concerns with respect to the comprehensive plan. For 2 years, numerous public hearings took place. Hundreds of citizens provided specific feedback. Their input was important to the creation and implementation of the 4 plans. I don't know any city in my history, my mind, that has done 4 plans at the same time so they can integrate properly. Our goal for the town hall meeting was to provide information to those who did not take part in those public hearings. I was pleased to provide as mayor a forum for discourse and an exchange of fact. In my opinion, based upon emails, social media postings, and newspaper articles, that others have decided to use this meeting for political fear-mongering and personal attacks with the goal to simply eliminate any resemblance of a town meeting. And I believe that. Ladies and gentlemen, I have read them, and I will give you some examples. Citizens have every right to express their views, and they should. D-Day observance was Sunday, and I've been there. Those people fought for freedoms and liberties, and the ability to express our views is inherent in that. But as mayor, a few weeks ago, I asked the city council to consider a public town hall meeting. No vote was needed, and discussions were made to proceed. Based upon the feedback that I've read, I am disappointed in the actions of some people in the community and would like to recommend that no meeting take place. People that have genuine questions concerning the comprehensive plans can schedule appointments, as well as they should, so that all of these actions can be transparent, and staff has been open to that. All council members approved the 4 comprehensive plans. Citizens' input over the past years and input from experts have helped us to plan for the future. Citizens need to know that over the past years, barriers and constraints have been and will continue to be utilized to ensure that responsible growth based upon sewer, traffic, and education needs will continue to be met. Many requested projects have not been approved by planning and zoning or the city council due to various concerns over the years. Talk about a population explosion. In the last 10 years, in 2011, our population increased by 0.6%. In 2012, 1.1%. 2013, 1.18%. 2014, 1.5%. 2015, 1.18%. 2016, 2.78%. 2017, 3.7%. 2018, 2.35%. 2019, 2.4%. 2020, 2.2%. And the average growth year by year, 1.9%. That is not a population explosion. It's responsible and healthy growth. As the city population increased over 9 years by 14%, I did each annual year, housing stock only increased by 6%. My focus and background is finance, accounting, and economics. Well, if population increases, but housing stock is increasing at a lower rate, then you're going to have a supply and demand issue. It's pure and simple, and it's going to cause an increase in prices that we've seen. 80% of the housing in Hayden is single family, 10% mobile homes, 5% missing middle housing, duplexes, townhomes, and the remaining 5% are standard apartment dwellings. It already exists. The new comprehensive plan will make it even more difficult and restrictive and limit the areas with which growth will occur. But remember, we haven't had this influx or growth, uncontrolled growth of multifamily. It hasn't happened. I don't anticipate it happening. There's too many constraints and barriers to allow density like that to occur. And again, the new comprehensive plan reduces density by 30%. In comparing our city with Garden City and Mountain Home, Garden City and Mountain Home both have lower population or percentage of single family. We're at 80%, they're at 62 and 73. And from a state average, we have a higher percentage of single family homes. We have lower vacancy rates and a lower percentage of rentals than any of the cities that we're compared to. The comp plan pointed to, and this is what's really interesting, the comp plan itself pointed to needing more missing middle and apartment dwelling units, not to change the character of Hayden, but to alleviate some of the stresses on locals that low housing stock and a lack of variety cause. Councilmember Roeder asked how to pay for it. One of the things that has been very frustrating to me is the limits on fees, impact fees that we could charge. And there was some, hopefully, change in that, because at present, park impact fees and road impact fees are very specific and won't give us the opportunity to take care of existing issues. Hopefully, the change in legislature will allow that to occur. And Joy Richards asked a question, and she did her homework on state constraints with respect to cities. And it was able to identify, I think in a very real way, that cities' ability to be able to pay for growth or allow growth to pay for itself had to do with the ability of impact fees to be able to be utilized. And again, for the record, I do not know why our state legislature felt like though growth needed to pay for itself, they would reduce the amount of money cities can use with respect to new growth so that we're even in worse shape than we were before. Please note that the letters that were sent out to the city, for the most part, were due to, part of the building that took place prior, and I'll use D Court if that's okay for an example. R1 was put into multifamily so that the lots would be smaller. And we wanted those people that lived on D Court and others to understand that their lots were smaller than what was intended for R1. And that if necessary, R1 can be utilized with respect to those smaller lots from a grandfathering standpoint. But we still want lots in the city of Hayden to be larger. With respect to personal attacks, and this is something I wanted to address, it appears that communications deliberately focused on why a Hayden planning director was brought in to the Planning and Zoning Commission for Dalton Gardens and implied, and this sickened me, and implied that the individual was appointed to find a way to change the zoning to facilitate some form of growth. So not appropriate and not factual. This individual volunteered in a difficult situation to be able to do whatever he or she could do to be able to assist a city that's having real internal issues. And that comment and others like it helped me to understand that even though I wanted to listen and learn, that it seems like this has taken off to a whole nother level, and fact and questions were irrelevant. We have amazing experts who work for the citizens of Hayden. These are true professionals who do not have any hidden agendas. There is no conflict of interest. To imply such is wrong and inappropriate. Subjecting these good people to comments that are untrue, misleading, and wrong is unfair to them and to those that they serve. I would now like to address the opinion piece published in the Coeur d'Alene Press today. Issues addressed in this opinion piece are not true due to the comp plan. It's also apparent to me that the author does not understand the difference between density and population. The 2008 comp plan allowed for more growth than this 2040 plan. The new plan is much more concise. Multifamily was available for many years and not utilized previously. Why would one think that greater restrictions and barriers would cause a population explosion to occur? The city does not accommodate public growth, population growth, but based on projections and historical data, it is vital that our city plan for this expectation at some level. Multifamily zones were established based upon traffic, sewer, and other factors. Modifications in zoning is an attempt to strategically place the types of dwelling units in areas where it makes the most sense. The city of Hayden has many transportation and sewer system needs. These existing needs are not caused by people who might move here, but are concerns for the more than 14,000 people who have moved here since 1970. State law does not allow cities to charge impact fees for existing system deficiencies. Over the past weeks, we have heard from some of our citizens that we need to limit or stop growth. We have heard from a city council member that we need to stop all mixed use or multifamily growth and to limit building to only single family residential homes. I have spent many hours studying these issues as best as I can, and here's my response. Artificial limits are wrong. Throughout history, when governments limit or control market forces, catastrophes and failures follow suit. Limiting the types of homes we build or the people that we restrict from moving into our city is just as wrong in my mind as limiting the amount of children a family can have. How dare we declare that growth must stop now that I am here? As city council and mayor, we must plan correctly for the future. We must allow the citizens to understand the needs that exist, such as sewer, law enforcement, roads, etc., and make recommendations to the citizens as to what course of action is needed. And it's okay to disagree on those. I just want to make sure that this council and others just tell the truth. Fact is fact. That's the discord and discussion that I want. I don't want personal attacks, and I don't want half-truths or lies. Experts from the city staff have prepared and presented a plan for the next 20 years. This plan is complete and includes all areas of focus: traffic, sewer, zoning, parks, etc. I support this plan. It can and should be massaged when necessary, but this plan needs to be inclusive for all citizens. For years, we have seen the need for mixed-use residential so that senior citizens who want or need to live in smaller homes and working-class families or individuals who cannot yet afford a larger home can still live in Hayden. A small, loud voice advocating exclusion and limiting options does not represent the citizens as a whole. I have talked to many, and many have talked to me. Plans need to be submitted and reviewed so that infrastructure needs can be met. We should never allow for uncontrolled or unlimited growth. Barriers and constraints are already in place to assure our citizens that responsible decisions are being made at a city level. Citizens need to be assured that the city of Hayden will continue to value its citizens through the many recreational, social, and interactive options that exist, whether they be sports, culture, or service opportunities. We need to embrace the thought of community, not exclusion, in my mind. Growth in our community has continued for many years. The Griffiths family moved here in 1970. We've had 7 downturns in economics with respect to homes. We've had 8 now upturns in terms of overall growth. It's a supply and demand issue. We're going to see that follow suit back and forth. But limiting by government on an arbitrarily or artificial limit continues to be wrong in my mind. We have a moral responsibility to be good stewards so that our posterity may be left something of value. And I do believe that all of us in the room agree with that. We have a moral responsibility to be good stewards. I don't think there's a disagreement. And we're going to figure out how it's done as best as we can. And we've included in the comprehensive plan input from many so that we can have a better understanding of what's anticipated and how do we plan for it. I still go back to the lady that was mad at me because of Government Way, and that's okay. She had to wait 2 signals. And I said, we've seen a lot of people move here. And she said, well, she's moved here 2 years ago. And I didn't put her on the spot, and that's okay. But she looked at me and said, you should have planned for this growth. And that's when I just smiled. We're trying our best. Government Way was set up to slow traffic, not to expedite it. But that's another story. I ask that we as groups of individuals decide to become a community of responsible citizens, concerned for our neighborhoods and our neighbors, determined to be respectful and kind for ourselves and for those around us. Leave personal attacks alone. Do the right things. Disagree all we want. That is my vision for the city of Hayden. Everyone has had a chance to make comments.
So I'd like to make a motion on, Mayor, on 3D, that we have a town hall meeting on Thursday.
There was
Planned.
There was no motion, but if you'd like a motion, we have had a motion to have a town hall meeting discussion. Do we have a second?
Second.
So what's the motion? Is that-
Legally, does a city council have the ability to call a meeting?
If they have an ability, 3 of the 4 of them can call a special meeting.
3 of the 4.
Yes.
Okay, thank you
A
very
mayor
much.
can call a special meeting on his own, or 3 of the 4 council can call a special meeting.
Well, in this case, the mayor was the one that called it, and the mayor would like to pull based upon personal attacks, a lack of fact, and the fact that many of the people that responded are not even citizens of the city of Hayden. I read an 8-page reiteration, and the individual doesn't even live in the city. We had 6 other people that didn't live in the city. So from a legal standpoint, we have a motion to have a town hall meeting. There's been a second.
Yes.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please. Abby?
Council President Satterfield?
No.
Councilmember Panabaker?
No.
Councilmember Delang?
Yes.
Councilmember Roder?
Yes.
So 3 of the 4 did not. I don't think that, thank you. In my mind, for me pulling it as mayor, it was that town hall meeting, in my mind, based upon information from so many sources, was turned to a political theater instead of a simple discussion with respect to the comprehensive plan. And that, to me, takes away from the effectiveness associated with the town hall meeting. And based upon the motions that existed, 3 city council members did not approve. Therefore, the motion did not go through. Thank you very much for your time.
Point of order, please, if I may ask our legal counsel. Now, on a motion and a vote on a motion, if it's tied, which we have here, doesn't the mayor break the tie?
The mayor can break the tie.
So he hasn't voted yet.
Correct, because in this case, you needed 3 yay votes. So it wasn't, you needed 3 council votes to get a meeting.
Yeah, under Title 50, Chapter 7 of just council's ability, a special meeting can be called by 3 of the 4.
And only 2 of the 4.
Is a town hall meeting considered a council meeting?
Don't know.
I would think so. I mean, I would think it's just as a norm, we publish it under the Open Meeting Act. We're noticing it as a meeting.
It was not previous. That it was not, the town hall meeting that was scheduled for 2 days from now was not voted upon. It was simply agreed upon and looked at as an opportunity to be able to communicate.
But we didn't vote on it.
Correct.
First time.
No.
He picked it, then he removed it, and then we just voted on it. You're saying we needed 3 to have the town hall meeting.
I'm saying to have a meeting outside of a regular meeting, just your normal regularly published meetings.
It's a special
meeting. A mayor can always call a special meeting,
Okay.
or 3 of the 4 council.
So we do have the record of the vote tonight, is that correct?
Yeah, Abby's taking it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Because there are a lot of citizens who are expecting that meeting to happen, will there be an article in the newspaper? Will it get posted on the website right away that?
We posted on the website, and there's not that many people that have communicated. It's been really interesting. I've had far more people ask why in heaven's name you would want to do the meeting than those that were interested in the meeting. And we only had 3 questions prior to Friday from any of the citizens with respect to the town meeting.
I still worry about the citizens who may not hear and who will show up.
Great point. And it'll be communicated. Abby, Brett?
Yeah,
We'll make sure that we
put it on
communicate that.
Facebook and the website, and if you want to do something in the paper, I guess.
I would also suggest maybe putting it on the electronic board. I just don't want someone to show up and be expecting that meeting.
Great point. Great point. 4, citizen administrator report. Brett?
Just 2 quick things. One, maybe a lighter thing. I know this has been a quarter meeting. We've been looking at Honeysuckle Beach, and we have a box and a half of old records that are there, and it's been interesting to read some of the history of what happened with Honeysuckle Beach. And one of the documents I found in there was a fundraiser back when they were looking to purchase an additional piece of property for the beach area. And it showed that the city had 1,000 keychains made and then sold those to make money to buy the property. And Dick, I think you were probably partly involved in that.
What year was that? Do you remember?
You would ask me. Donna might know. Do you remember?
I don't think I was here when
It
you
was
did
before
that.
she even worked here, so.
It's a long time ago, but
94, 98.
so Donna, I said, oh, I've never seen one of those anywhere around here. And Donna had one or found one, and she showed it to me today. And so it has a picture of an Indian and 2 fish, kind of like the old, I think like the other picture. And it says, I supported the Honeysuckle Beach project. It's an old keychain there. So anyways, I thought that would be fun to share, just something lighter and fun. Also just mention, a reminder, I'm not sure who's going down for the Association of Idaho City Conference. That's next week, starts the 16th for a couple days. And lastly, I think the mayor kind of mentioned it. Susie's not in here. She's online, though. Happy birthday, Susie. It's her birthday today, so staff member. Anyway, that's all. Till we get to the budget after.
Thanks. Anything else from any member of the council?
Can I clarify something, hopefully, just one little thing?
In your comments,
It won't
and Matt,
be hostile.
everybody will have that opportunity,
Yeah,
so.
it won't be hostile either. I shut my mouth and not lose my temper sometimes. I shouldn't do that. I'm sorry for that. But this Viking home thing, the $600 and some thousand, if I remember correctly on that one, what we paid for is an oversizing of the pipe. Viking was already going to dig the ditches and do all the labor and all that stuff. And we thought at the Harbs Board, where the decision was actually made to begin with, is that, okay, while you're digging the hole and you're doing that, there's going to be another subdivision come in the future. Why not oversize the pipe and get ready for that for the future, which is what we did. And all we paid Viking for, they paid the labor and they paid for the original size pipe. We just paid for the oversized pipe to accommodate the growth in the future. That's what that was for.
Thank you. Any other roundtable discussion items?
Mr. Mayor? For those who are going to the annual conference for AIC, you'll need to, unless you've already done it from last year when they had the virtual conference, you'll need to download the Wolva app. That'll have the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Abby, can you do that? I know, this is cool.
Is that silver, real silver?
I don't know.
I'll bet Marvin Otten down here at Sunshine Meeting made that.
I haven't heard that name in a long time. I know Tom Power really well. Might pass it down. Based upon Councilmember Roeder's suggestion, please let it be known that the mayor was the first one to initiate wanting a town hall meeting to be able to clarify. And the reason that I pulled it is I felt that it would not be a town hall meeting, that it would simply be an opportunity for people in the community and not even citizens from Hayden to be concerned and talk about growth when the issue was really an understanding of the comp plan. So I welcome and have always welcomed input from all sources, and continue to prove that. So I hope that Councilmember Roeder, as he did previously during an election, inappropriately condemned members of this council. Just tell the truth, Councilmember Roeder. We're happy when you
Ask
do.
how I condemned the other members of the council.
Yeah, very specifically, Councilmember DeLange, you stated that she, as a council member, voted to support the levy, when in reality, and this was explained to you, and you did not change it, when in reality, the council simply allowed this levy to go to the citizens. There was not any support or endorsement by any member, especially Councilmember DeLange. And on your website, you continued to say that she endorsed and supported the levy, which was totally untrue.
But when, if I may, when the Sheriff Norris was here, she said that exactly.
No, this was,
No, she said it, that she supported both levies.
she supported the levies going to the
No, she
citizens.
said, I heard it. and-
You may, but this was back when you asked me about when, and I brought that to your attention very specifically to make sure that your campaign or contacts or information was correct and complete. And I was disappointed then that you took things again as a half-truth, and that half-truth is then communicated online, just like the individual that wrote from D Court, when in reality it was exactly opposite of what that individual wanted. He thought the city was doing one thing and the city was doing the opposite. So I just want to make sure
Who
that
else
when we
did I
communicate.
discourage on,
That was Councilmember DeLange specifically, and I talked to you about it, and you didn't change. So I just want to make sure that
who else?
moving
I mean,
forward.
You're trying to degrade me publicly. I'd like to know what else was.
I'm not trying, you did that on your own. And that's one example, and I gave that to you. So as we move forward, I
Well, we
expect
have
this
a
council
film. I
to
think
tell
there's a film of
the truth.
That meeting, we can take a look at that and see if I say is true. And I will get that to you, Mayor, if you'd like that.
Please,
Is that okay?
because I want to make sure that when we communicate factually.
Correct.
So
And I
that's
think good.
my only concern.
And
So-
that was when Sheriff Norris was here, and that's when the statement was made by Councilmember DeLange that she supported both levies for the police, and she supported police, and I'll get a copy of it.
But that was years after
this
your
was-
accusation. No, I understand. That was years after your accusation to her.
When I also
Your
heard her
accusation
say
was
she
during her-
supported the levies.
Well, she could have said it then, and her tone
Are we
could
going
have
to
changed one
argue
way or
about
another.
what happened years ago? Is that what we're gonna
No,
do?
I just want you to tell the truth.
I am.
Well, you didn't
You?
2 years ago.
Are you?
Yes, I am. That's the nice
I guess
part.
we have a disagreement then. We'll leave it at that. Is it okay?
This has nothing to do with the meeting with Sheriff Norris. This has to do with your comments 2 years ago when you were running for office. So I just want to make sure that all members of council tell the truth. It would make it really easy. We will be
Put it in writing where you
dismissed.
say I have not told the truth. I will respond to each issue for you, Mayor, if you would like that.
I've done it. I did
You've
it
never
2 years
sent me
ago.
any statements like that.
You bet I have 2 years ago. Please go back.
Please?
We're done. We're going to have a break, and at 7 o'clock, we're going to begin the budget portion of the council workshop.
I'm going to get picked on.